Hey everyone, and today I want to go over how Crimson or Fatal Tempo is actually really good for grinding ghosts, and how for newer players that have a decent amount of money but can't actually one tap or two tap using this is pretty much max Crimson, right? This one doesn't have Legion 5, but everything else is pretty good. They all have full perfect Jaspers or top tier. So using a Hyperion, I'm not going to use the Shadow Fury, which is I'm going to use for this test. So I took out some of my talisman. I only have 800 power, and I'm going to be using a Shadow Fury for the damage test. So you can see I have a ton of Ferocity because I just put my accessory enrichments on Ferocity. But even with the Crimson Armor 2-tap, that only does like 700k because it's 320 per hit. This has Fatal Tempo, so you can see pretty quickly I get up to almost 100% of the time one tapping. But it'd be something like a Hyperion, which has good Ferocity, but doesn't actually have solid damage. You can see that a lot of these ghosts you're not going to end up actually one tapping because they're either too close to the wall, like almost all of these ones are, or you just don't get the Ferocity tick. So what you can do, which is actually really crazy, is use a Shadow Fury, which I'm using this instead of a Giant Sword because this is more affordable. These are like 120 mil right now for one off the auction house. Maybe 140, 50 mil, but still not too bad compared to this, which is like 300 mil. And then you can use Werewolf. This is just giant, ancient, not too crazy Werewolf armor, right? And a Tiger Pet. Also, I was using a Mithril Golem because that's a pretty reasonable combat pet to be using. But if you instead use a Tiger, you can see I can go down here. And then how Fatal Tempo works is it takes a couple hits to start getting procs. So let's get a couple procs going. And then you can see, once you get a little bit of Ferocity, also I need to turn on Blood Chalice. I turned it off for the other test because you're not going to be consistently killing them with Ferocity, and I just want to make that more clear with the Crimson ability. So you can see here, you can run around, and we'll focus on one or two just to show you that it is actually one-tapping every single one. But it's a really good way to, like, if you couldn't one-tap, like here, I'll show you. Like, see this guy? And then they'll end up dying in a second. Boop. And they all die, even with just my normal stats. It does require like the fire aspect and stuff, but it's a pretty budget way to kill them because it's just full werewolf armor, which is just ancient werewolf, probably like 4 mil. And then a Shadow Fury with this is the most expensive part by far. It's like 120, 130 mil. And then using a Tiger Pet, which you want a epic or a legendary. Epic doesn't really matter. Just a level 100, that's like 15 mil for a level 100 epic. And then you'll just be able to run around and one-tap them all. Which is honestly kind of crazy because you saw, if I was, say, the same person and instead I bought full maxed out Crimson Armor, and then I was using what would be the best pet that I'd really be able to use, which would be a level 100 Mithril Golem. This does about the same damage. You can see the Shadow Fury, 345k. So it's only 345k versus this, which does actually more damage on the first hit. So using the Shadow Fury, you're not going to be one-tapping, and because you're relying on the Crimson Armor ability, you're not even two-tapping, right? Like any of these ones, none of them are going to die in one hit because they're too close to the wall. But instead, if you're using Werewolf with Fatal Tempo, it's like really strong. And then for me, I have a max renowned Werewolf and everything. I can use my Fatal Tempo Giant Sword. I just didn't want to for this test to show that it's actually pretty affordable. And in fact, if you used Crimson with a level 130 G-Drag and a Shadow Fury, is this enough to one-tap? This still isn't enough to one-tap. See, it's about the same as a Mithril Golem with the level 1, what is this? 133. If you use a level 180, this probably can one-tap, because I do have one build bank. No, this still can't even one-tap, even with Crimson Armor ability. Or no, this can. Okay, this can. But like, is it relying on the... How much damage is that do? 800k. Okay, that is enough with Fire Aspect and Venomous. to one tap, but even then, that's relying on the stuff near the edge. So pretty much this is the only way that medium game, well, later game players that can't one tap and are trying to use Crimson, it's way better. It's consistent. Like if you're the same person but using, you know, a Shadow Fury, you're gonna be doing less damage, but oh yeah, you have to tick up a little bit of the Fatal Tempo. It takes a couple hits to build up, so you do have to be, you know, actually killing them. But then you can see it's 100% consistent. It doesn't matter if they're on the wall; they'll just die every single time. And it's something you should definitely try out, and it's just really fun. Like another thing, I'll show you guys while I'm here. Let's get Tiger Pet on. Well, I didn't even have a. If I had a Tiger Pet, that would have been even easier. If you're using a giant sword. Here, let's get Frosty going again. You'll be doing way more. Like just from those couple clicks, I already have what 460 Frosty. So that's 5.6 strikes. So anyway, also to show you guys something cool, I'm gonna go do a Blade Soul just because he's cool. So if you're using, say, a Frosty setup, look at all the Frosty you get. It's crazy. So you're not doing huge damage at first. Because Frosty does cap if you have high attack speed. So not all of the Frosty we have is actually proccing, but it's still crazy. And also it is giving you a lot of ghost damage. So for this, I am actually doing more damage than his health is showing. Also he just healed there. But so I can also use Axe the Shredded just to get him down a little faster. That's what I usually do, but I don't want to make it seem too sweaty. See, I actually did 97 mil just then. But it's really cool. It's really fun, especially for ghosts. If you're in that position where you can't one tap, it can get you over that edge, and it's a lot more consistent than Crimson cheesing is, which I think is cool because the profit is a lot higher if you're 100% consistent. So again, using like this, and this is what I guess it's not even the max setup. I don't have my good werewolf on, but it's crazy ferocity. But anyway, hope you guys try it out if you can afford it. It's not cheap, but it is definitely cheaper. It's about the cheapest max efficiency setup you could get. Because remember, this is the exact same speed, like if you can afford it, as you can get in the game. This is the most kills an hour because you can one tap, and that's the best in the game right now. There's nothing better unless you have Gyrokinetic Wand, which even then, that doesn't really make your rates faster if you're already optimized. Because for this, you just, it's the same as one tapping it and doing 1,000,000 damage. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Try it out if you want. It's really fun. The only thing that makes more money in this is obviously if you can one tap, it's always more efficient to use a G-Drag, and because you know you get combat XP, and if you can use Sorrow, that's always better too, Renowned Sorrow, but still, for players that are trying to get combat XP and money, this is pretty good.